Okay. Well then, if that brings to the end of this segment, we move on to the next segment, which is called House of Games.
Dan Barrett,
Okay,
this
so
is the fun stuff we come to every week. This week in history, then a birthday quiz. Tough one this week. I'll see how you go. This week in history is not so tough. Play that little sting thing. All right. July 25, 1985. Why did I say it that way? 1985. The tide turned in America's understanding of the AIDS epidemic when which beloved star confirmed he had the virus on this day?
Rock Hudson?
Yes, it was Rock Hudson in some of the saddest footage ever seen. We saw the once majestic matinee idol standing beside his good friend Elizabeth Taylor delivering the news. Actually, it was a spokeswoman for the French hospital that delivered the news, and then he came out a few days later and was
I had
filmed.
that moment.
Yeah, very sad. Very.
Sometimes like you'll be thinking of a celebrity and you'll be like, they're dead, right? And then you're like, oh wait, maybe they're not actually not dead, and maybe just confusing it with someone else. And I was about to say Rock Hudson. I was like, wait, am I just about to, suddenly completely misname somebody in a really awkward situation? But I went with that.
Not at all. No, he passed away not long after that. He was a very sick man. So, July 25, 1990. Do you know the name Ingrid Andress? You probably don't.
No.
Earlier this week, she sang a terrible version of the Star-Spangled Banner before a Major League baseball game. She's come out and admitted that she was a little bit emotional, had quite a bit to drink. If you haven't seen the footage of her, we send our best to Ingrid, but it's going to go down in YouTube history as just one of the most awful renditions of the Star-Spangled Banner ever. She wasn't the first to do it. On July 25, 1990, who last committed a terrible rendition of the American anthem before a baseball game?
Look, I'm going to say the name, and I feel I'm going to be right, but I thought it was a year or two after this. One Roseanne Barr.
Yes, it was one Roseanne Barr who did an awful version and then grabbed her crotch and gave a finger to the crowd who was booing it. She's a class act, Roseanne Barr. Yeah. July 28, 2019, which US TV actress became the first guest editor of UK Vogue? The first time in the magazine's 103-year history. Which US TV actress?
Now, I'm going to say a name, and again, I think I'm right on this one, but I never think of her as a US TV actress. But is this one Meghan Markle?
It was the Markle. Yep. She starred in the TV, or co-starred in the TV series, I want to say Suits. Never seen it. Yeah, it was Suits. And she was given the lead, the editor's desk at UK Vogue for some reason back in 2019.
Well, because she's famous, and why wouldn't you?
Yeah, sure, I guess. Yeah, fair enough. Hey, I've still got a birthday quiz.
No, not happy birthday. No, not that. Please, no, not happy birthday.
All right, my friend. This is a tough one. They've all starred in movies that featured this man's presence in some way. That's the clue I'm going to give you. July 21st, 1957, Jon Lovitz. Funny guy. July 23, 1961, Woody Harrelson. July 24, 1998, just a kid, the lovely Cailee Spaeny. And July 24, 1979, Australia's own and Simon's favourite, Rose Byrne. Now, what could these four many and varied on-screen performers have in common?
So I famously don't look at the running sheet, but I always bring up the birthday quiz because I know I always need to spend some time on this. So yes, I did open a birthday quiz this morning and I took a look, and I've been struggling with this all morning. And look, I couldn't find a connection. I thought it was like voice work for a bit because Jon Lovitz done a lot of voice work, most notably as the critic. It stinks.
It's true.
Rose Byrne's done quite a bit of voice work around the place, and very memorably playing the character Leatherhead in the recent Ninja Turtles cartoon, amongst many things. But you said it's related to a man. Now, Cailee Spaeny, and that could be any number of things. So we could be talking about a co-star, we could be talking about a director or a writer or whatever. Cailee Spaeny's been in very few things.
That's
Okay,
true. That
but
should be your entry point because she's only been in like three, I guess maybe two, three big movies.
yeah, and she hasn't done any voice work, so that idea got ruled out pretty quickly. But I couldn't latch onto anything until you just gave that clue then. Have
Yes.
they all got a relationship to Elvis Presley? So, Jon Lovitz, I've got a vague memory of wearing like an Elvis type pompadour at some point. Whether that's the connection or not, I'm not too sure, but I feel there's something there. Woody Harrelson, I can't help but feel may have been in that movie Honeymoon in Vegas. I could be wrong there as well, but I'm going to go that it's an Elvis Presley connection.
Okay, well, you've nailed it. It is an Elvis Presley connection, and I'll run through exactly where the connections are. July 21, 1957, Jon Lovitz. He co-starred opposite Kevin Costner and Kurt Russell in 3,000 Miles to Graceland, a story of a bunch of guys who dress up as Elvises for a robbery.
Elvi.
July 23, 61, Woody Harrelson in Zombieland 2, whatever the subtitle for that was, Tap Out Zombies or something. He had a major scene dressed as Elvis, singing one of Elvis's most famous songs.
Well, they went to Graceland.
Well, they went to Graceland, exactly, and he donned the famous white suit, as I did when I got engaged in Parks to my lovely wife. That's the third mention of my wife. Have I done something wrong at home? Maybe. July 24th, 1998, Cailee Spaeny was in Priscilla. Most recently, she played Priscilla opposite that tall, good-looking guy's Elvis Presley. What's his name? Jacob Elordi. Elordi. And Rose Byrne played a female version of Elvis Presley in the recent Aussie film, by recent I mean a couple of years ago, Seriously Red. And she was very good as Elvis in that. So, yes, you're right. It was all Elvis influenced things as the answer to the birthday quiz. Well done, Dan Barrett.
Yeah, very good. Well, I guess the reward for that is getting to sign off from this podcast. Folks, this has been Screen Watching. My name's Dan Barrett, being joined by Simon Foster. If you want to track down more of my work, you can track me down at alwaysbewatching.com. It's a daily newsletter with the most recent news and streaming and like other screen-related stuff. On Fridays, I do a newsletter called Always Be Streaming, which is kind of like a TV guide for your streaming needs over the weekend. And there is a brand new interview-based newsletter that comes out on Wednesdays. I didn't do one this week because I started off on a Sunday this week. But the transcripts effectively of these two YouTube interviews I've done recently will be my first couple. Number 3 has a interview with someone who is familiar to listeners of this podcast. But the 4th interview is really something quite special. So stick around, strap yourself in. It's a good little edition, and it's primarily for supporters of the newsletter, but other people can get a bit of a look in with a bit of a preview. Simon Foster, you've got a website. Tell us about screen-space.net.
Well, there's lots going on there, apparently. I haven't been to it for a while, but I'm going to upload some interesting stuff in the days ahead. Most notably, I want to talk about an interview I did with a gentleman named Larry Buttrose, who is an author. He is releasing a new book called Everyone on Mars. It is a series of short stories that look at Mars exploration from a very humanist point of view. Go over to the Sydney Science Fiction YouTube channel, Sydney Science Fiction Film Festival YouTube channel, to see that interview, which will be up there by the time we finish this podcast. And of course, all the Screen Watching socials at Screen Watching Podcast for Facebook, on Threads and YouTube at Screen Watching. And you can email us with all your thoughts and views and complaints, screenwatchingpodcast@gmail.com.
Folks, this has been Screen Watching. We'll be back next week with more Screen Watching. Folks, we'll see you then.